All right. So, yeah, look, today, seminar Ask the Migration Agent is making a return. So obviously it was very successful with our first series. So by popular demand, we've added a second series. So today we're going to be looking at how to get your permanent residency for a partner visa. Thanks everyone for their participation. We've received a whole lot of questions, which we'll go through and answer and address for you. And we'll also do a little bit of a presentation just to get the main points of a partner visa, and then we'll go straight into addressing your questions. So Question Immigration was founded in 2016. Our head office is in Melbourne. However, we service clients all around Australia and all around the world, actually. So our ethos centers upon honesty, professionalism, and really just a general passion of helping people through their migration journey, whether it be, starting off with a student visa, to gaining the graduate visa, to a temporary work visa, whether it's a partner visa, family visa, citizenship. We cover all those service areas. We also speak Spanish. So here we've got with us today Jessica Palacio, who's a migration coordinator. Also Lena Ortiz, another migration coordinator, and also Anna Ray, who's our new marketing coordinator, who's also been instrumental in putting together this presentation for everyone today. A little bit about myself. So I'm the founder and director of Question Immigration. I've been a registered migration agent since 2015. So I've helped hundreds of clients with different types of applications, student visa to employer sponsorship, partner visas, general skilled migration, graduate visas, and also citizenship. Also a member of the Migration Institute of Australia, which is the peak body for registered migration agents since 2015. And also I've got a background in education as well, international education. So I've been a qualified education agent counsellor since 2012. All right, so we'll have a look at the partner visa eligibility and requirements. So, and what sort of makes up a spousal relationship or a de facto relationship. You must be engaged or married to an Australian citizen, Australian PR, or an eligible New Zealander. When we're talking about engaged or married, specifically married, would be basing the partner visa on spousal grounds. On the contrary, you can also live in a de facto relationship, which also includes same-sex couples. And that would be based on de facto grounds, all the same, for all intensive purposes. Depending on your situation, you can apply on spousal grounds, or indeed you can apply on de facto grounds. And we'll have a look at the requirements for both those type of, relationships a little bit later. You need to be able to prove that your relationship is genuine. The onus, I guess, in any type of partner visa falls upon the applicant, their sponsor, and obviously the migration agent. So it's a collective effort. You've got to understand that the Department of Home Affairs in reality just treats every applicant as a number. So the onus is on us collectively to prove without shadow of a doubt that it's a genuine relationship, and to also then evidence the 4 pillars of a partner visa, which we'll go through in the next few slides. So how to prove your relationship is genuine. So this is based on 4 key aspects, which include financial aspects of your relationship, the social aspects of your relationship, the nature of the household, and the nature of your commitment. So this is also what we call the 4 pillars of a partner visa application. When we're talking about financial aspects, you would need to show that you've got shared financial, I guess, liabilities, also assets. Um, First and foremost, I guess the first thing that springs to mind is having a joint bank account. Also can include other stuff like having a joint lease, joint loans. Yeah, just really having joint financials for your, I guess, well-being. The social aspects of the relationship uh, is regarding how you present yourself in public. Do you present yourself in public as a couple? You know, also, how do you go on holidays together, and other aspects which include the social aspects. With this particular aspect, we also usually, present a photo story of the relationship. So that could be in chronological order. Usually we include 20 photos, and that sort of also evidence the social aspects of your relationship. The nature of your household depends on really how you live together. So obviously, the basis of any relationship is that you cohabit, and then basically, what are the arrangements, and you need to be able to articulate, the nature of your household. Nature of the commitment, which is the fourth pillar, would include aspects like, if you're married, you'd have to have a marriage certificate. If you're in a de facto relationship and you haven't been cohabiting for 12 months, then you'd have to have a registered relationship certificate. You'd also need to have some witnesses. So a couple of Australian citizens or permanent residents, 2 or 3 at least. However, the more 888 forms that you provide, I guess, the better. You also need to write a statement, so the main applicant and then also the sponsor, which demonstrates, how your relationship began, where you first met, how it sort of, when you first, I guess, the date that you first started living together, when your relationship was formed. So all that needs to be articulated in a relationship statement. What we usually do as a practice is, usually we get either the applicant or the sponsor to write their relationship statement, obviously with our guidance. And then there's quite a bit of toing and froing, because you need to be specific on certain aspects, like, the date you met, the date that you actually became a couple, how the lead up to that, what happened, also other aspects like, have you met your partner's parents? Do you converse? So all that sort of stuff needs to be articulated, and the more detailed, the better. And usually, it might take the first statement 3 or 4 drafts before we get it spot on correct, how we would want it to be. And then basically once one of the statements is perfect, then we get the sponsor or the applicant to paraphrase that statement in their own words. And that also means that we'll be consistent with all the dates and all the details. So all very important aspects of a partner visa application. So the 4 pillars, financial aspects, the social aspects, nature of your household, and nature of the commitment of your relationship. All these 4 pillars need to be evidenced, and the more evidence that you provide, I guess the stronger your application will be. So let's have a look at what constitutes a de facto relationship. So the main thing is that you need to be living together permanently for 12 months prior to making your application. So the Department of Home Affairs requires documentary evidence that you have lived together for 12 months prior to lodging your application. If you are married, you do not need to show 12 months of cohabitation, but will need to show that you are currently living together. And the same applies if you have a registered relationship certificate from births, deaths, and marriages. So if you had your relationship registered in an Australian state or territory, you would be similarly exempt from the 12-month cohabitation rule. So types of partner visa. So temporary subclass 820 partner visa, subclass 300 prospective marriage visa, subclass 801 partner visa. So this relates to an offshore application, right? And subclass 100 partner visa, which is basically the permanent stage of an offshore application. And similarly, the 801 is also the permanent stage of a temporary partner visa application. So when you apply for a partner visa, you actually apply for a temporary and permanent visa at the same time. So what happens is that at the 2-year mark, so two things need to happen first. Either your temporary visa needs to be approved, so the 820 needs to be approved within 2 years, and then provided your temporary visa has been approved at the 2-year mark, then you can apply for permanent residency. You don't need to pay application fees to the government. That's all covered in the initial application. But you do need to refresh your evidence at the permanent stage to show that your relationship is ongoing. So it's pretty much a mini application and a refresh of the evidence that you provided in your initial application. The subclass 461 visa is for those who are in a relationship with a New Zealand citizen, and the same sort of principles apply with any type of partner visa. As with the 461, you still need to prove that you're in a relationship, and you also need to satisfy the 4 pillars of a relationship, which are the financial, social, household, and also genuine commitment. And just on that as well, so there might be some people here that would like to merge their visas, or there might be 2 people that are currently international students who are on separate student visas, but are in a relationship. And the same principles apply. Even if you want to do a subsequent entrant student visa application and join your partner's student visa, which isn't a bad thing, because you can pool your resources together. You don't both need to study. So one person can focus on work, the other person can focus on studying. The same principles apply. So you still need to either be in a married relationship or a de facto relationship, where if you've got a registered relationship certificate, you don't necessarily need to prove that you've been cohabiting for 12 months. However, if you have a registered relationship certificate, you could be cohabiting for 6 months and still pass the requirements of being added to your partner's student visa or joining your student visas to one. So the benefits of a partner visa granted. So you will have obviously full work rights. You will actually have full work rights from the time of application if you're onshore in Australia. However, there are some bridging visa issues that you will need to overcome. And I think that's one of the questions later. So we'll answer that question in the Q&A. You can live together anywhere in Australia. If your partner visa is lodged whilst you are in Australia, as we mentioned, this option is available to married and de facto couples. You may go onto a bridging visa that will allow you to work during the processing time. And we'll have a look at a couple of scenarios related to that. Specifically, if you're on a student visa and you apply for a partner visa, how does that impact your work rights? How does that impact your study? Whether you have to continue studying and paying tuition fees. It's a pretty common scenario, but I believe there is a question later, so we'll touch on that in the Q&A section. All right, so let's get stuck into the questions. So one question from Angie is, do you guys have any packages for partner visa applicants? Well, I'm not 100% sure what this question relates to, but I guess maybe asking about the fees for a partner visa application. So look, our standard fees for a partner visa application is 4,000 plus GST. We do have payment plan options specifically for international students because we know that the processing time for a partner visa can be quite long. So we're happy to facilitate payment plans. Obviously, the government lodgement fees need to be paid when the application is lodged. But yeah, we can be flexible with our own professional fees, no doubt. I hope that sort of answered your question. But yeah, look, obviously, we look after onshore partner visas. We're doing a couple of offshore partner visas at the moment. We also apply for students wanting to join other students, their partners on a student visa. Also subsequent entrants for 485 postgraduate visas. Also for employer sponsorship visas. And just on that as well, so, you know, if you do join your partner's student visa or your partner's employer sponsorship visa, then once you've proved your relationship in any application, all things being equal, then you have the opportunity then, provided the relationship continues to, is ongoing, you have the opportunity then to piggyback off your partner for any subsequent or future visa application, whether that's for a temporary work visa or even a permanent visa, whether it's general skilled migration. If you've proved your relationship, then you can piggyback off your partner all the way to permanent residency. Jessica, you want to ask the questions?
Sure. So the next question.
Sick and tired of my voice.
I can help a bit. Okay, so the next question is from Mia. Mia is asking, what happens if I finish my relationship while holding my temporary partner visa?
Yeah, okay, good question, Mia. So the reality is that depends on the circumstances of your breakup. If it's just a normal breakup, or when I say normal, in terms of, you know, you had a falling out, or for whatever reason, you guys, for the many reasons people break up, the reality is that pretty much you can't transition to permanent residency. So at some stage, if there is a breakup while you're on the temporary visa, you will need to inform the Department of Home Affairs, and then you're eligible to apply for any other visa that you can fulfill the criteria. However, you can't transition to permanent residency through the partner visa. Circumstances where, despite a breakup, you can transition to permanent residency. One situation is if your sponsor passes away, so that would be automatic grant of permanent residency. The other situation would be whether the visa applicant, has been subject to family violence. And family violence is not limited to physical violence. It could also be emotional or psychological violence or trauma. There is a process, though, that you need to evidence that. You need to have supporting evidence, from the Australian Police, from a qualified physician. But in that circumstance, if the applicant was a victim of family violence, and there's a pretty good definition of family violence, then you'd be able then to transition to permanent residency. But otherwise, in any other circumstance, you'd have to apply for another visa. Yeah.
All right, next question from Diana. I am in Australia on a student visa. Can I apply for a partner visa?
100%, absolutely, Diana. So as long as you can fulfill the criteria of being in a relationship, whether that's a de facto or a spousal relationship, and you can fulfill the four pillars, then if you're holding a student visa and you're in a genuine relationship with an Australian citizen, permanent resident, then absolutely you can apply for a partner visa.
All right, next question from Jorge. I'm on a student visa. Can I stop studying whilst waiting for my partner visa to be processed?
Oh, a good question, and I think this was what we were alluding to earlier in the slide. So, the reality is, it depends when your student visa expiry date is, because basically, when you apply for a partner visa, you automatically are granted a bridging visa, but that bridging visa sits underneath your student visa. So two things need to happen for you to be able to stop studying. First is that your student visa expires. So whilst the partner visa is processing, or your temporary visa is granted. So either one of those two needs to happen, so you can, I guess, alleviate yourself from studying and paying tuition fees. Otherwise, if you stop studying and your student visa is still in effect, well, not in effect, but your bridging visa for your partner visa has not kicked in, then the college can report you to the department, or likewise, if you stop paying, the college can report you to the department. And then if your student visa is cancelled, even though you've applied for a partner visa, then all visas will be cancelled. So it's very careful. You've got to be very careful with this. The reality is you shouldn't really stop studying until either your student visa has passed its expiry date or your temporary visa has been granted.
Next question by Karen. If I have a temporary partner visa, how do I become an Australian citizen?
Awesome. All right. Good question, Karen. So basically, it will depend on how long you've been in Australia on a temporary visa. So obviously you apply for temporary and permanent visa, partner visa at the same time. Your temporary partner visa has got to be approved within 2 years' time. Provided it is approved before 2 years' time, then at the 2-year mark, you can apply for permanent residency. All things being equal, and as it stands at the moment, provided you've been on a temporary visa for 3 years, then if you've been on a permanent visa for 1 year, then you can transition, or you can apply for citizenship. So you've got to have spent in Australia 4 years altogether, and some of that time needs to be on a temporary visa, and then after spending 1 year on a PR visa, then you can apply for Australian citizenship.
All right, another question from Diana. I am separated but not yet divorced from my husband. Can I apply for a partner visa with my new partner?
You actually can. It's another good question, Diana, but you would have to apply on de facto grounds. Okay, so obviously there's a bit of a process with when you go through a divorce process, depending on the country where you were married. There's different sort of process, separation process. So if you're not yet divorced, you can still apply for a partner visa with your new partner. However, you would have to apply on de facto grounds. And because you're not yet divorced, You won't be able to obviously get married with your new partner or register a relationship with the state authority with your new partner. So you would, the only issue would be that you would be restricted, or you would have to wait for 12 months, 12 months of cohabiting with your new partner. So you'd have to evidence that. And then after living with your new partner for 12 months, you could apply for a partner visa on de facto grounds, no problem.
All right, next question from Cynthia. I want to launch a partner visa, but I haven't lived with my partner for 12 months yet. My visa will expire next month. What can I do?
Okay, awesome. So yeah, and this is a scenario we often get at our office. So look, it doesn't necessarily matter that I guess you haven't lived with your partner for 12 months. The best thing to do in this particular situation would be to register your relationship with the state authority. You know, here in Melbourne, it's Births, Deaths and Marriages Victoria. In Sydney, it's Births, Deaths and Marriages New South Wales. So actual registration certificate holds the same weight as a marriage certificate. So provided you can register your relationship, then and you've been living together for 3, 4, 5, even 6 months. Obviously, the longer you've been living together, the better. But in essence, it doesn't really look. Even if you've been, you know, we've done applications and successfully done applications where, you know, they've been the partner and the sponsor have been cohabiting for less than 6 months, because the reality is, as long as you've registered your relationship, then the way a partner visa, the time it's taking to process these days, is you can continue building on your portfolio of evidence while the application is processing. So step one would be to register your relationship. That alleviates the 12-month cohabitation rule. And then obviously you'd build the strongest portfolio of evidence you could at time of application. But there's nothing stopping us from continuing to submit evidence while the application is being processed. So it's not a problem whatsoever. We've successfully lodged many partner visas similar to this scenario, Cynthia. So yeah, no issue whatsoever.
All right, next question from Fernando. My sponsor doesn't have a passport. Can she still sponsor me?
Yeah, 100%. So we're actually doing a similar case at the moment. Look, as long as they can prove that they're Australian citizens, whether that's a citizen certificate, yeah, it's no problem whatsoever. Yeah, I don't know too many people that don't have a passport these days, although given the current situation, they're not very useful at the moment, I must admit. But yeah, it doesn't matter whatsoever. You know, if we're talking about a partner visa, then they'd have to be able to prove their citizenship. If we're talking about a 461, which is a New Zealand relationship visa, then they'd have to be able to prove that they're a New Zealand citizen. But yeah, not an issue at all.
Question by Oriana. Is the subclass 801 automatically granted after a certain period of time?
No, no, it's not, Oriana. The reality is that before a subclass 801 is granted, look, in most cases, you will need to refresh your evidence. Look, we've had a couple of different situations with the long processing times that have sort of come to a head. We have had circumstances in the last probably 2 years where temporary and permanent visas have been granted at the same time. But 9 times out of 10, we've had to provide update of evidence. So yeah, like I said earlier in the presentation, usually when we apply for permanent residency, obviously it's not as much as a detailed application as the initial application. However, we do need to prove that the relationship, is ongoing and still genuine. So, if you think of a partner visa application, we typically upload, 50 to 60 documents. In the permanent residency, in the PR stage or the subclass 801, we typically submit 20 to 25 documents. So that gives you a little bit of a snapshot of the amount of evidence that's required for each stage. But yeah, definitely, it's not typically granted automatically, although we have had situations where, because the processing time has blown out so much, the temporary and the permanent stage have been granted at the same time.
All right, a question by Yanis. We really can afford the fees for the partner visa and the professional fees. Do you have any suggestions about how we can get the money together?
Yeah, sure. So look, we really understand that, a partner visa is very expensive. I think there's statistics out there that demonstrate that an Australian partner visa is actually more expensive than any other country in the world. So, and we're talking about 3 times more expensive than the US, Canada, UK, all those other sort of Western popular destinations. So the reason why partner visas are so expensive is, I believe, and this is why also the evidence that we need to provide needs to be categorically and 100% bulletproof, is because they're really trying to deter people who are trying to sort of, I guess, take advantage of the system and aren't really in a genuine relationship, but are just trying, I guess, to either prolong their stay here or get PR through the partner visa, but who aren't really in a genuine relationship. So those type of people have really, I guess, stuffed it up for everyone else who is in a genuine relationship and just wants to sort of be reunited or build their future with their partner in Australia. And that's why I guess the government lodgement fees are so expensive. They've just gone up in July. So what are the, sorry to put you on the spot there, Jessica. Have you got the current government lodgement fee? It's somewhere like 7,000. It's just gone up to, let me check if I can. That's all right. We'll grab those in any case. But look, it's something like nearly 8,000 at the moment. So, like I said, we can be very flexible with our clients. So, what we usually do, and keeping in mind that the processing time is quite long, and also I guess it's not like, even though whenever we can, we like to follow best practice where when we lodge a partner visa application, it's a decision ready application. What that means is the next time we hear from the case officer, we'd like it to be the grant. But what we can do with the partner visa and what we do with a lot of our clients is that we usually implement a payment plan. So whether, depending what the actual fee will be, we implement a monthly installment, whether that's 6 payments or 8 payments over 8 months. But that's how we do our little bit, I guess, to help overcome the exorbitant fees, the government charges of a partner visa. So we're more than happy to implement a payment plan for all our partner visa processes.
I got the current fee here, so it's 7,850.
Okay, 7,850. There you go. So, look, if you also then incorporate translation costs, also national police certificate fees, medicals, it is quite an expensive exercise. However, in saying that, you really can't cut any corners when you're applying for a partner visa because, like I said, the onus is on you, your partner, and if you engage a migration agent, um, to prove without any shadow of a doubt that a partner visa is that your relationship is a genuine one. Yeah, what we can do as an office and what we do with most of our clients is we afford the flexibility of a payment plan. It's not an issue for us because we've never had any issues with any clients like chasing up or anything like that. Because when you start working with an agent on a partner visa application and building your portfolio of evidence, you really get to understand how much work is involved in actually putting together your portfolio of evidence and making sure that no stone is unturned, to give yourself the best opportunity of success. And look, I'm really proud of our team. Lena and Jessica do an amazing job as well, helping out with partner visas. And we've got a 100% record so far. And we've had some pretty interesting cases, and Jessica can attest to that. But yeah, look, the reality is, it's a commitment between ourselves and the applicant. We really got to put our best foot forward and make sure that there's no sort of leeway at all afforded to the case officer, and the only result is going to be an approval.
All right, I think that's all for the questions in the presentation. I do have a couple of questions here in the Q&A.
Yeah, sure.
So Vanessa is asking about some changes coming up in November. And she's wondering if there are going to be any changes because of COVID, and is that going to affect the partner visas? Do we know of any changes?
No, look, there was the only change that I'm aware of was the English requirement of the applicant. So, and a way you could get around that was either doing a number of hours at a college, not an international college or a Cricos college, but at AMES, or having an IELTS or PTE certificate. Look, I don't think so. Look, there's no other changes coming. It all depends on the migration numbers each year that the federal government publishes in the budget. And again, I believe a big proportion was allocated to partner visas. So each year. So look, that the English requirement for the applicants was a change that was touted. Obviously, the other one, which is already in effect anyway, is that the sponsor would have to have a police certificate at time of application. More so, that was for more, for sort of to make sure that there's no family violence history with the sponsor. But yeah, the main change in the future, which has been earmarked, but nothing has happened as of yet, is the English requirement for the applicant.
All right, thank you for that. I have another question from Rosanna. So Rosanna is asking about the possible reopening of the country once 80% of the vaccinations are reached. So she's wondering if she's in a bridging visa or a temporary visa, if she could travel to see her family.
Yeah, look, there's no issue with traveling to see your family. As a temporary resident on a temporary visa, whether it's a student visa, TSS visa, a graduate visa. Um, there's no issue in leaving Australia, but yeah, the issue is returning. So, there's something like 50,000 Australian citizens stuck overseas who can't get back to Australia. So, unless you're fulfilling a work contract on a priority occupation in the priority list, which you can all see on our website, and you're fulfilling a work contract. The problem is, yeah, re-entering Australia with the borders being still closed. I'd love to have an answer for you. Sorry, what was the young girl's name?
Rosanna?
Yeah, I'd love to have an answer and something more specific for you, Rosanna. But the reality is, with COVID, we're seeing that the goalposts are changing, every day. I think it's been encouraging to hear the Prime Minister, Scott Morrison, the last couple of days, sort of saying that, we can't keep on having our borders closed and going into lockdowns. We need to start living with the virus. So that certainly looks like we're going in a more better direction. But yeah, the problem is for any temporary resident, leaving is not a problem, but you'll need an exemption to come back in. And unless you're fulfilling a work contract that's on a priority on the priority list, then there's no guarantees that you'll be able to come in unless the border's really open. I know it's challenging for everyone. Everyone misses their family, friends, but yeah, it's just one of those situations. And even for Australian citizens, and on the flip side, Australian citizens and permanent residents can't leave. We need an exemption to leave. And then to come back, although we don't need an exemption to come back, you've got I've got a friend who's been stuck in Switzerland for a year, Australian citizen, and every time he's scheduled to come back, the flight gets cancelled. So it's a tough situation for everyone. By all means, any temporary resident is free to depart Australia. But yeah, the problem is coming back in with same border restrictions at the moment. It's going to be a challenge to come back in unless you're fulfilling a work contract on a priority occupation. If we get to 70% vaccination rate, I believe we'll start seeing some university students with certain caps coming in. 80%, we're hoping that the borders will open and people can freely come and go as they please. But yeah, I'm afraid, Rosanna, I wish I had the answer, but yeah, I don't.
Okay, and Rosanna has another very interesting question as well.
Mm-hmm.
So she's asking if she's on a student visa and apply for the partner visa.
Mm-hmm.
Once the student visa expires, will the bridging visa include full working rights?
Yeah.
Can she get Medicare?
Yeah, 100%. Look, you can get Medicare from time of application, right? Problem is, depending on when your student visa expires, will depend on when you can start working full time. Unless you're working in hospitality or critical sector, you can work full time anyway. But yeah, look, so let's say, for example, you make your partner visa application today, the 25th of August, because it's just easier to demonstrate this on a timeline. And your student visa expires, let's just say 25th of August, 2022, right? So you're locked into a really long student visa. You've done Cert 4 business, Diploma of Leadership and Management, Advanced Diploma of Leadership and Management. So you've got a 3-year visa. You're about to start your Advanced Diploma of Leadership Management because you're in the last year of your student visa. The reality is that you make your application today. you automatically get a bridging visa that sits underneath your student visa. Now, when you can work full time or stop studying will be either the 25th of August 2022 when your student visa expires, or if your temporary visa is approved anytime between now and the 25th of August 2022. What's the likeliness of that happening? Well, it just depends. If you look at the published processing times on the Home Affairs website, you know, they're quoting some ridiculous months at the moment, 22 to 28 months for the temporary visa. We're finding they're actually being approved a lot quicker. Recently, we had one as quick as 6 months. I really can't pinpoint how they sort of, you know, prioritize these applications, but the reality is we're actually finding that partner visas are being processed quicker than what they were before, especially during COVID. I think the reason for that is that a lot of the efforts, you know, case officers for different type of other visas are sort of converging or have been directed towards doing more partner visas. And we're also seeing, you know, we've got onshore partner visas and we're getting case officers from Malaysia, from Indonesia. So it looks like from different posts all around the world are sort of focusing their attention on partner visas. So despite the published times on the Home Affairs website, we're actually seeing that they're being processed a lot quicker. In your situation that we illustrated, whether it would be you'd get your temporary visa first or your student visa would expire in a year's time is a bit of touch and go, 50-50. What are the factors? There is a bit of a risk rating with partner visas that could take longer. So, for example, you know, if you've been married before, if you're at a similar age to your sponsor, how long your relationship has been for, all these aspects could sort of streamline the application or mean that it could be a quicker application. You know, if you've got 20 years difference from your partner, you know, if you've been married twice before, I think these are the aspects that sort of determine the length of processing. But yeah, I don't know. I've sort of gone on a few tangents there, but did you sort of understand the timeline of the bridging visa and your student visa, or do you want some clarification on that?
I think it was clear. I don't have any other question from Rosanna regarding that.
Okay.
I do have other questions.
All right. How many questions are there, Jessica?
5 at the moment.
All right. We'll stop at those 5 questions. No
Okay.
more questions, please, because yeah, the reality is I could be here for longer, but my son's just going to get back from childcare and he's going to start running riot. So, all right. So we'll cap it at these 5 questions. I'm happy to answer these ones. Let's get through them.
All right. So the first question is from Faisal. Do you need any time frame to apply for a partner visa once you get married?
No, not necessarily. No. Obviously, the longer you're, you can apply for you can have a marriage certificate and apply for a partner visa the next day or even the same day on spousal grounds. However, obviously, you know, you need to have a strong portfolio of evidence, which, you know, details the timeline of your relationship, you know, and evidence is, you know, the 4 pillars. So it's not a problem. But yeah, you definitely would need to, you know, provide enough evidence to show the genuineness of your relationship. And, you know, not just retrospectively, but, you know, your future plans as well as a couple.
All right. And Trinidad has a question. Do I have to be onshore when the visa is granted?
Not necessarily either. So, if you apply for an onshore partner visa, or is he talking about applying for an onshore partner visa or
I
applying for?
believe so.
Yeah, if you're applying onshore, then definitely. So if you're applying for the 82801, then you definitely need to be onshore at time of grant as well. So it's interesting. We've got a couple of clients that have been stuck overseas because of COVID, and we've had correspondence with the case officer. Look, they understand the situation, but until they're able to get back into Australia, they're not refusing it, thank God, but until they're able to get back into Australia, they won't grant the permanent visa. So yeah, you need to be onshore if you apply onshore. That's correct. Yeah.
All right. And Jimena is asking, my student visa finishes on 1st of December. I have a registered relationship and live with my partner. When should I apply for the partner visa?
Well, any time between the 1st of December. Depends on if you've got a registered relationship, you've been living together for, at least 6 months, then, you could apply for it any time between now and your student visa expiry date, no problem.
Okay, and Jimena is asking as well, my partner and I do not have a joint bank account, but they do live together and pay rent together. Is this enough to satisfy the requirements?
Yeah, look, joint bank account is obviously, the first thing that comes to mind. It's no problem, if a visa expires in December, my suggestion would be just open up a joint bank account. If you've got a registered relationship certificate, you don't need to show that you've had a joint bank account for 12 months. The registered relationship certificate alleviates that rule. But yeah, there's other things that you can show. Do you transfer money to one another? You could document that. You joint finances in terms of, do you buy, the groceries, household items? There's a number of ways that you can show joint financials. I'm not sure if you've got a lease together or you're house sharing, but yeah, a joint bank account is not the be all and end all. There's other ways, obviously, that you can show joint financials. 100%.
Okay.
Superannuation beneficiaries, a will, a number of ways of showing joint financials apart from joint bank account.
Okay, perfect. And you kind of cover the last question that was regarding the length of the bank account. So how long it had to be open for them to be able to use it as evidence?
Well, look, it depends on if you're applying on de facto grounds without a registered relationship, then you need to prove that you've had joint finances for 12 months. If you're applying with a registered relationship certificate, then 4, 5, 6, 7 months will suffice.
Okay, I think that's all.
All right, awesome. Okay, what's the so yeah, look, as a bonus, guys, today, I think we've had something like 20 participants throughout the presentation, so that's amazing. So we'll be sending everyone an email, which will be a free eligibility test, and then basically, based on that, if anyone's interested in engaging our services, I guess initially, you can book an initial consultation, but according to your eligibility test, we'll also provide you a quote. So we're happy to offer 10% off our professional fees for all participants today. So watch out for that in the next week. It will be hitting your mailbox. So look, again, I'd like to thank everyone for attending. I know it's some challenging times at the moment, but please stick in there. And look, the reality is, Australia is not a bad place to be throughout this pandemic, so it's not all doom and gloom. And also have a look at our social media for all upcoming events, and particularly Facebook and Instagram. We publish a lot of content and information about all types of visa updates and news. So thanks again, everyone. And
Thank
we look
you.
forward to seeing you. Thanks, Jessica.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Bye,
All the
everyone.
best. Bye for now.